Professor Suleiman, first thank you for the promotion of Bosnia and Herzegovina in the University of Sarajevo. You got this recognition today. What does it mean to you and what impressed you the most in Sarajevo?
Well, it means a great deal to me because we have been trying to establish relationships with the University of Sarajevo for some time. The University of Sarajevo is a great university. It has had recently a very hard and tough time, and it is an honor to be allowed to work with colleagues to build relationships that come through Cambridge, into Cambridge, through Cambridge, out of Cambridge, to other places with which we have links. The particular part of the university that I have had relations with is a young department with young people who will be with us leading the field in 30, 40 years' time. So to have a glimpse of the future through these young, gifted people is a great pleasure. So it is about celebrating achievements that have been made, but also looking forward to a future where other achievements will be grafted and realized.
Mostly you write and research the topics like language, conflicts, identity. Why did you choose these areas?
First of all, this is an area that has been under-researched in the Arabic-speaking world and in other parts of the world. Linguists have tended to study languages in terms of their internal structures, how they are constructed, how they work internally. And they have tended to not give enough attention to the situatedness of languages in their political, cultural context, sociocultural context. So my research is an attempt to try to rectify this, to try to say languages are living organisms that interact with their environments and public spheres, culturally, politically, socially, and in other ways. So my research is an attempt to try to read Arab societies, Middle Eastern societies in the areas of conflict and identity through the prism of language. And it has been a very productive journey for me. Then, secondly, I see that this is not just something specific to the Arab world and to the Arabic-speaking world. It's something that spans outside that. And I've started to see the connections with other cultures and societies, and that the same issues are being faced and being dealt with in different ways in different parts of the world. And I've traveled to different parts of the world and I'm always struck by how much resonance, how much similarity in the diversity that we have of how language expresses identities, expresses conflict. It is never the cause of conflict, but it is something that is always implicated in conflicts.
I would like to hear your opinion about the geopolitical situation, about the reality in which Palestinians live today.
I have been traveling to Palestine and to Israel over the last few years. I was there last month. And every time I go there, I just realize that life is getting more and more difficult. First, in terms of political movement, by way of trying to find a situation, but also by physical movement. The fact that Palestinians live in small areas and they can't move freely from one part of the Palestinian territories to the other. There is economic decline and deprivation. There is a loss of hope and a loss of opportunity for young people. The situation can't continue, and I think they are living in a pressure cooker kind of situation. And my fear is that one day this pressure cooker will not be able to withstand the pressure building inside it, and it might sort of explode. Now, there are negotiations taking place now about trying to achieve the vision of a two-state solution. I think most people say and most people believe these negotiations are going to fail. They're going to fail simply because the geopolitical situation, the reality on the ground that has been created over the last 60, 70 years by successive Israeli governments will make the creation of a continuous Palestinian state almost impossible. So I think now it is geography and the way that the geography has been cut up and has been punctured, that is going to dictate the political solutions that we will see into the future. Some people say that the negotiators on the Palestinian side might accept a kind of a Palestine, but Palestinians will not be able to recognize this as Palestine, because it would be a disfigured piece of land that is not connected, that is almost like the severed parts of a body. I think the two-state solution is dead. It has been dead for a long time. I think we are moving into a new kind of political reality. My discussions with different groups in Israel and Palestine indicate that people think that the division of the land into two states is no longer a viable solution, that we have to think creatively about how we reconfigure, reconstruct, rebuild the geography into a political space that can give expression to the aspirations of two peoples, Palestinians and Israelis. And the idea now, it's either confederation, one-state solution, but the two-state solution has been buried a long, long time ago.
An important topic is also Arab Spring. What do you think? Does the Arab Spring reach its failure in the case of Syria and Egypt?
It depends upon how you read the Arab Spring. Is the Arab Spring about replacing regimes by one regime by another, or is it about something else? I read the Arab Spring this way. I believe the Arab Spring ultimately is about the discovery by ordinary Arabs that they have agency, that they can do things, that they don't have to sit down and accept things from the top. So this discovery of agency, of the fact that the person thinks, the individual thinks, that they have the power to change things, is a very important part of the Arab Spring, and I don't really believe that this has been extinguished. It's still there, and we have to still look to it. That is one. Secondly, the Arab Spring, I think, because of this emphasis on agency, is, to my mind, is not about liberation. It's about emancipation. I think most Arab individuals, persons, have to some extent been emancipated from old paradigms of receiving politics, of accepting the end results of political process. And I think this is really important. I think personally that the Arab Spring is facing very perilous moments in its progress. But the spirit of the Arab Spring is something that is going to remain, and it's something I think governments in the future will take note of, and people are going to be stupid in the future if they think they can ignore the public will and the popular will of the people. For example, the recent events in Egypt could not be performed through a blatant military intervention as in the past. They had to actually get the people to go out. The people went out and the people asked for a change. So it was not the old style military coup. It was something which had to ride on the popular will of the people. And I don't really think that there is any Arab country that has not been affected by the agency that has been granted to the people, that the people have grasped in their hands. The Arab Spring is about turning the Arab subject into an Arab citizen, a person who has rights, who has responsibilities. And people have discovered this. And this is something that if I was a ruler in the Arab world, I would be very unwise to ignore and not to give attention to.
Professor, thank you very much for your time for TV1.
Thank you.